Welcome to the Rig on Wheels show, everybody, featuring Rig on Wheels, featuring MVT, the first ever truck driver recruitment show. I am your host, Kameel E, and we have Robert Pierson's back. He took last week off. We was like, what is going on? But we did have our favorite internal recruiter. But we got Robert Pierson back. He is the VP over there at Mesilla Valley, and we are your ultimate destination for truck driver tips, insights, hot jobs, recruiter tips, everything. So let's definitely make history happen. Pierson, how is everything? I see you sitting over there in El Paso.
Yeah, I'm in El Paso. It's good to be back. Josue and you did a nice job last week. Had a chance to watch the show there. I know Josue got some interesting feedback from a number of folks, not just within the offices of MVT here, but a lot of prospective drivers over the past week from the appearance. And so excited to be back on here, hopefully get the Rig on Wheels bump. I can't let Josue have all the glory here.
Yeah, we enjoyed him. We definitely enjoyed him last week. We love it when recruiters are on the show. It's all type of, we were just going back and forth and a nice synergy and everything. And he was able to talk about diesel actually at particular gas stations in El Paso. So it was pretty cute. Loved it.
Yeah, let me be clear. I'm not going to get that specific. I'm not living up to that standard.
But we do got some good news about diesel. It is down 5.4 cents. So this is making another consecutive 6 weeks in a row. So what you got to say?
There's a lot of pressure out there to push diesel prices up, but it's holding steady in that downward trend, which is a nice reprieve for the industry. As we've talked about before, fuel surcharges are a lagging indicator, so it lets you continue to essentially get a little bit more out of that fuel surcharge than you'd normally get. Additionally, for your smaller carriers that depend heavier on broker freight, those rates, depending on the broker board that you look at, seem to be going up as we go into the holiday, into the Christmas season specifically. So with those going up, the price is going down on diesel, because most of those rates on a broker board are all-in rates. They don't necessarily account just for the fuel. They're all in. So there's a number of smaller companies or companies that depend very heavily on broker board that is a great thing to see. Now, as for us, with a company of size, about 1,900 drivers, we do use some broker freight. There is a time and place for a broker load to make sure that that truck keeps moving, that driver keeps moving, or to connect two dots back into a running lane. So we do a little broker freight, but most of our freight is going to be direct customers. They've held steady. It's why we offer about 60 to 80% drop and hook, because you can't do that with broker loads. You have to have direct customers to do that. But there's a number of carriers that right now are very dependent on broker freight. As much as we've talked about, this is the ebb and flow of the industry and people go out of business. It happens if they don't evolve. You don't root for that. You don't wish for that. I think the German word is Freudenscheiden, when you find pleasure in the misfortune of others. Don't want that to happen. So if it gives a couple of these carriers some lifelines to get to better, brighter days, that is a very positive thing for everybody.
Yeah, and I like to do like a comparison thing. And this time last year, but diesel is 87.5 cents cheaper. I guess I would like to say we, like as if I had some money in this whole diesel. I'm one of the oil field heiress. But no, literally we are 87.5 cents cheaper than we were last year. So that's really like a big deal. And I don't think we were so focused on freight as much. I mean, not freight, but as much as diesel last year. We are so much more focused on it. I think it's because we're so soft in the market right now and inflation being so high. So it's so in front of us. Of course, we're in logistics, so we think about diesel, but right now we're really focused on it.
Yeah, and you may not be the oil heiress of Houston, but we definitely have a fiduciary interest in what takes place. As you know, we've been fighting inflation, really high inflation rates for the past 3 years at this point. That diesel price ultimately gets passed on to you and I as consumers. So It starts with a trucking company. They're the ones that first take that, as we had the discussion with Mack Trucks taking on a higher payroll. That cost starts at the trucker level. But once it gets past trucking and it gets into the warehousing market, at the end of the day, be it if you're a truck driver, if you're a VP of recruiting, if you're working for Rig on Wheels, we all have to go buy groceries and products and TVs and computers and what have you. So we pay that price. And so when we see that price go down, unless you specifically have stock in ConocoPhillips or Valero, that price going down is a positive thing for you.
I do want to say this because I read this at 3:00 in the morning. Don't judge me. But Yellow, they finally auctioned off majority, if not all, of the terminals. And the biggest winners, I just wanted to, because we were talking about stuff in the past. So the biggest winners from Yellow terminals for the 1.8 billion at auction. That's a good number. XPO, S's, Saya, Knight Swift, they came away with the most in terminals at the bankruptcy court.
Depending on somebody's operations, they had some pretty nice commercial properties. Their equipment was horrible, but their land holdings were very attractive depending on the company's network of freight. So it was fairly competitive on that side of it. Their equipment's a bit of a liability. It's part of what got them into some trouble. One of the contributing factors with their cheap rundown equipment, but the terminal network's quite attractive depending on who and where you are. And it gets really into, we're going to see a lot of money exchange hands over the next couple of years still. Mr. Jacobs, the founder of XPO, literally started a hedge fund with about $1 billion where he's going to go out and essentially his job is to go acquire trucking companies or acquire various pieces to make a larger holding company. So between the pieces being split off from Yellow, companies that are running really short on cash flow, we're going to continue to see a lot of merger and acquisitions or capital investment into certain pieces of property over the next couple of years, which takes place every time there's a dramatic decrease in freight.
Right. Yeah, I saw that. And it was some other, a lot of other winners. But Truck and Dive this morning, when I saw that they just mentioned the top, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4. The top 4 is who I mentioned. XPO had 26, SE's had 24, Saya 17, Knight Swift 13. So that's pretty good. That's very good. They had some real estate.
Saya is probably going to reap the biggest benefits of the additional freight out there that comes from that, just because they're an LTL carrier. So there's some opportunities from a freight standpoint. Why they most likely weren't the number 1 carrier in terms of picking up terminals, though, is they already have a pretty big terminal footprint. So in a lot of the markets that Yellow would have had terminals, Saya probably already has a pretty large footprint overlapping it. Surprised to see Swift Knight get involved with it, but they continue their expansion. It wasn't that long ago Knight Swift purchased US Express.
So they got something up their sleeve. I'm really, when I saw that, to be honest with you, when I see things like that, because Estes is LTL, I mean, they have full freight too, but they're LTL carrier as well. But when I saw the top 3 being LTLs, right? And then I saw a Knight Swift being number 4, I'm like, I wonder what they have up their sleeve, especially with the fact that they just picked up US Express a few months back. So I was like, I wonder. So I can't wait to see how that pans out. I'm pretty excited to see it actually, because I can't wait.
So, trucking is one of those businesses that has one of the easiest points of entry. So for an entrepreneur or somebody that wants to get started in their own business, compared to a lot of industries, you can be a 4 to 10 person shop and get started in trucking and take on a Knight Swift. If you tomorrow decide you want to create a computer company and take on Microsoft, you're not going to get off the ground. Like there's no point in even having the discussion. So that's the exciting thing about our industry. With that said, there's advantages to being big. You get better healthcare rates because you have a larger pool size of people using the healthcare. You have more capacity to do more things. In any business, if you're not growing, you're dying. You have to have that continued growth strategy. And so as much as you want to cheer for the little guy, and I do, and like I said, there's no better industry to get started as far as a business in terms of ease of access. This would be one of those times that if you're large, you've got to keep on getting larger, hopefully intelligently, not just to say I got bigger, but there's some strategy behind it. Because if you just sit back and wait on your laurels here, what eventually happens is the industry starts passing you by.
I agree with you. This piggybacks on, you said this 2-3 episodes ago. I have literally been quoting you or paraphrasing you as if it's the Bible or something like that to anybody that would actually listen. Is if your CEO or anybody of mobile type management, and if they're sitting in the office fiddling around, I can't wait to see what the transcript says about that one, and not out there beating the pavement trying to acquire new clients, things like that. You got to look at stuff like that. That means that they're just sitting there, which means they're dying. Yep. And your job is going to die with it. So if your management isn't moving, then you need to be updating your resume. And that is the truth. That is the honest to goodness truth.
This is a business that definitely has a symbiotic relationship. The driver depends very heavily on the fleet manager. The fleet manager depends very heavily on the load planner. The load planner depends on customer service to sales to the customer, as well as sales to management and upper management. We all literally in the supply chain that is a trucking company or any type of logistics company, if there's one piece of it that doesn't go into that urgent panic mode when freight slows down, the whole chain breaks. Yeah. And so it's a company dealing with their current customer base. Hey, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, do you have additional freight opportunities that we can fulfill for you today? Hey, new customer, can we participate in an RFP, a request for proposal, to find new business? And if you have a management team that is not aggressively pursuing those new opportunities in good times, let alone bad times, that company is going to have trouble and it will not last long term. There's a certain level of good things that happen when people get off their duffs and get panicked. Panic can be good if it's controlled. Granted, if your CEO's running down the hallways going, this is the end, you probably want to be concerned by that too. But with that said, from a customer acquisition standpoint, your management team above and beyond just your company's sales team should be hitting the pavement right now.
Yeah, panic can actually be a motivator. It actually, because this morning, we had some crazy stuff happening. I use it as a motivator. It was so motivating. Yep. I am so excited. I don't know what to do. I couldn't even, I have some of my friends said, we're not calling you for a whole week because I am super motivated. I am probably not going to sleep for the rest of December. I'm motivated, but that's what happens to me, so you have to just kind of decide. What I want to do is take a quick commercial, come back, but I want to talk about a blueprint that's the smaller companies, the owner operators, things like that can use as a blueprint, because I think we are actually touching on it a little bit. And I have something to say, and I know you will as well. So, Kayla, if you could just take us to quick commercial, and we'll be right back, guys. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. Okay, so what I want to talk about when we talk about like the blueprint for the smaller companies, even small like myself, a recruitment agency, because it's literally what I use. One of the biggest secrets that people ask me, Rig on Wheels is a recruiting company. Our niche is trucking. What we do is look at the mega companies. So, for an example, we use 10th Street, the Intella app. It's the only application that the drivers speak by name. They say the application. So you utilize your megas as your blueprint. Sometimes what not to do, but typically what to do. Your company next to you, your next mom and pop trucking company, your next mom and pop agency, broker, whatever type of small business you are within the trucking industry, that is not your competition. Your competition is your megas, your big companies. Those are your competition. So that's who you need to be looking at as far as for your blueprint. So it reminded me, Pierson, when you was just talking about it, when you were saying that this is the only industry that you can kind of think of where the driver can come in and kind of start being able to compete with, the larger companies. So
yeah, your mega carriers, you could have a raincoat company that has 81% market share and they dominate it. Your biggest trucking company still makes up less than 1% of the market. There is not one single big player. There may be big players in a certain niche of the marketplace, but it's one of those that the little guy has some opportunity. Now, being small hurts you in some elements of it. If you're small, you don't have buying power. Just like any business, size helps in a number of different ways. But that's also having an understanding of your business. And so, Kameel, like you would with Rig on Wheels, you kind of know what your break-even costs every month. So if you made no revenue and you just go, hey, this month to stay in business is going to cost me this. So I know revenue-wise, I have to get this, because if I don't get this, I'm taking a loss. Might not make profit at that point. It's the same thing with your owner-operator. So I know if my truck payment's this, my insurance payment's this, I take into account every mile I run, there's fuel, and I have to pay myself, plus provide myself with insurance. I may know that in a 30-month day, I have to average $225 a day. That's what, as an owner-operator, I have to generate to support my business. Doesn't change when you have 5 trucks, 10 trucks, especially in that under 100 truck range, you know that. So as an example, if there was a 30-day month and you had to make $250 and you decide you want to take some days off and you're going to only work 23 days out of the month, now I know every day I have to hit $326 as an example, because that would come out to about $7,500. I now know that those days off cost me about $76. There's a cost to it, and understanding that cost. Now, if you can do that in the world of trucking, which is definitely doable because we are in a day-to-day business, you can start planning and you can grow and go, okay, if I'm going to add a second truck, I need to add this much revenue. If I'm going to add a third truck, I need to, and that's a unique thing that's in this industry that is unrealistic in other industries. Like I said, if you want to take on Microsoft next week, I'm not saying it can't be done, but you probably are coming in with a whole bunch of investment capital to take on Microsoft. If you're a social media company, you're probably going to find the next trend, which I have no clue what that would be. In trucking, we're fairly straightforward. It's understanding how much revenue you need to generate, and then it comes down to cost cutting. Maybe it's fuel economy, which we focus heavily on. Maybe it's instead of a brand new truck, I'm getting a truck that's 3 years old. It's kind of figuring out how you want to build the mousetrap to be successful, but it's a unique thing. And we do this as company drivers too, though. So we talk about the owner operator and the small fleet. Company drivers have the same element of it. When you're on the road, you can eat at the truck stop 3 meals a day, but you may go, boy, that was $75 today I spent on truck stop food, which what might not have been that good to begin with. Where if I can have a refrigerator in the truck with me and I only eat out once a week, all of a sudden I'm now spending $15 a day on food. That doesn't seem like a big thing at first, but it adds up.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, everyone needs to look at themselves as their own small business, whether or not they're in a business structure or not, because that's true. That's budgeting.
Yep.
You know, why, if you're making $250 a day, let's say, why would you be spending $75 a day on food or whatever? I mean, sometimes you're going to splurge, but just in general, why would you be doing that? You start adding that up and you are able to see what it is you could have been doing instead of that.
And I'll say this, if you're going to get into the owner operator side of this business, you want to start as a company driver and you want to have that budgeting down to a science. Because if you jump in and you have that employee-based persona in your head and you go into the owner operator side where now you don't have a boss, you are your own boss, but you technically now have dozens of bosses. If you don't have that financial acumen when you make that switch, you're going to get into some very questionable lease purchase programs. You're going to sign up and get the truck that has $20,000 worth of chrome on it. That's not going to make you any extra money. So it's having that financial stewardship over yourself and your business to be successful. It starts as a company driver. You can be a lease purchase driver. You could be a 5-truck fleet owner, but you have the same thing. What do I need to make per day to break even? How am I going to make the money I need to? How am I support the family back at home that may be relying on what I do on the road? That's one of those things that I'll tell anybody when you get into trucking. There is good money in trucking, but if you don't mind the pennies, the dollars don't take care of themselves without it.
Yeah, that's one of those sayings that you got to have a little age on you to understand. But what I will say is, when you say have certain things down to a science, that is the honest to goodness truth. And that's the reason why drivers need to come in as company drivers for a lot of reasons. And especially at the company you might want to run under, unless you literally come from a family that has done this and has done it successfully. It's in your blood. And I don't mean just drive, like you come from a business-based family, because there's a difference between being a professional truck driver and being a professional truck driver that now owns a business. Those are two different occupations or two different categories. But because fuel is not variable when you're talking about now being an owner, those are, you have to look at them more as fixed costs or how you can make them become fixed. That's where your differences come in. And so I don't want to step and put words in your mouth, but when you talk about having things down to a science, is that part of it, knowing how to control your fuel, your diesel?
Look, one of the things that we focus on at MVT is career development. And that could be with us long term. That could be on your own where you go off and do something else. We do have some students that we hire. We primarily hire experienced drivers. But the key piece of this is there's a lot of different career paths you could go down, but you have to be honest about what it is. You might say, hey, I want to move into the office and become a fleet manager. Then you have to ask yourself, can I make 40 to 50 other truckers just like me trust me? And I can work for them and be empathetic. You may decide, you know what, I want to become a trainer. I want to train the next generation. We have trainers that make $120,000, $150,000 a year, but you have to be patient. You have to be detailed. And can you teach the skills that you know to the next generation? We have folks that decide, hey, down the road, I want to become an owner operator, and then I want to potentially, if I'm, really good at what I do, I want to eventually get 5 or 10 trucks. Well, all these career paths all start at the simple place. If you start as a company driver and you accumulate data, you understand what not to do. You make mistakes along the way. It's going to happen, but you're safe, you're professional, and you figure out your personal budget. You figure out what your time and energy is worth, and then you figure out those next steps of that career path and what's going to fit you best. But you want to have a game plan in all those. You do not want to wing it. You don't want to go into a lease purchase program with a company just kind of not really sure if it'll gas, but you view a lease purchase like you would any old job for 3 months, you're going to fail. If you go out and find financing and you get a truck right now and you don't have a game plan on how you're going to be 12 months later, you're going to fail. You brought up the variable cost of gas or fuel, and that's a good example of that. Yeah, you can go get your own truck, go ahead and have it ungoverned and go down the road at 75, 80 miles an hour down the road. But when you're getting 5.5 miles a gallon fuel economy, and a company like us is getting 9+ miles a gallon, you are now selectively deciding you want to be at a competitive disadvantage. You have to think about those things of, okay, if they get 9, how do I get 9? How do I do that? How do I get that type of fuel economy where I can beat the rest of the industry by almost a third? And it's driver behavior. That's the first and foremost thing, along with some other factors. So those are the things that you have to ask yourself as you lay out your career path. Where do I want to be 5 years from now? Where are my weaknesses? What do I need to get better at? And what is it that I need to perfect so when that day comes, I'm ready for it?
Okay. Love it. Okay. So I love that. So what are maybe the 3 top driver behaviors that affect fuel economy? I know, like speeding.
Number one, speed.
Yeah.
Number one, speed.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to find, and this is at most carriers, depending on the load, generally figure at an average speed of 49 miles an hour. It varies. There's some companies that serve a niche that they're always on back roads. There's others that might do a 2,000-mile length of haul and it's all interstate. So there's some variance in there. But generally right now, most of the industry is at some form of anywhere between 48 to 50 miles an hour as an average. You going to the road fast, that delivery time might not change. So if you're due on a Monday morning at 8 o'clock and you get there 5 hours early, that doesn't mean they'll take the load from you. So yeah, you sped and you got there really quick. Now you got 5 hours to kill. You've not gained anything. There is very little gain from going fast down the road. Your percentage of accidents goes up considerably, your speeding tickets goes up, and your fuel economy is the biggest factor beyond just safety, goes to hell of a handbasket. Slow down. When you're going uphill, do not be trying to stick the pedal to the metal. When you're going downhill, allow the hill to do the work for you. If you are coming off the West Coast and the Santa Ana winds are blowing, take advantage of the situation and let them blow you along the way. Right. Understanding how to utilize your cruise control. That truck is much smarter than you and I when it comes to fuel economy. There's a whole bunch of smart technicians that put that thing together that knows a whole lot more than you and I. Allow the truck to work for you, especially with a newer model truck. So the first one's going to be speed. The second part of that is you're not on a sightseeing tour. Getting on and off the interstate continuously is horrible for your fuel economy. It's acceleration and deceleration that will eat up your fuel economy next. The longer you can plan out your day, and it's not just pre-planning as far as where you'll be at what time. I've had a couple of our drivers that have over 12 miles a gallon as averages. They'll schedule their water intake. They do not want to be on the side of the road taking a pee every 30 minutes. Right. They want to stay hydrated. They want to watch their health, because you being mentally healthy is just as important as your physical health when you're on the road, and it's hard to be that when you're dehydrated. but they think, hey, I'm going to eat at this point. I'm going to drink this much water here. So they schedule out their day accordingly. So they're not getting on and off the road. The other part of that is defensive driving. When you're defensive, when you're thinking, what is this four-wheeler over here going to do to me if they decide to go through 3 lanes of traffic? That defensive driving also has a habit of being much more fuel efficient going down the road, because you're not going to go as fast. You're going to be cautious. You're going to be very reserved, and you're not going to be the one that's going across 3 lanes of traffic. And you're going to be prepared for when the bad thing happens. You don't know when you're going to come up on 285 around Atlanta and somebody's tire is laying in the middle of the road, and you need to be in a position where you can control your vehicle and all 80,000 pounds so you can get out of the way of the tire in the middle of the lane. Those 3 factors, there's a bunch of other factors. We've talked about it. It's making sure your truck's clean. It's making sure, hey, we have engineered lanes that are designed to optimize what kind of fuel economy we can have. So there's other factors involved, but driver behavior by far, between your speed, controlling how often you get on and off the interstate or the road to where you're not decelerating and accelerating continuously. And then the second part of that is really planning out what your day looks like, your water intake, your food, your meals. When you get into a truck stop, when you can control it. If you can get to a truck stop at 4 p.m. to wind down your day, you're going to find parking to be a breeze. If you show up at a truck stop at 9 o'clock at night expecting to find a parking space, you're going to waste a ton of fuel going in circles around a truck stop that you most likely are never going to find a parking space.
So this is something I wrote down really quickly, and I actually wrote down, I wrote an article in Forbes about this when it came to different strategies for profit for fleets and owners, and it was about safety. So safety, fuel mileage, professional drivers, all of it goes together. But let me just show you this connection right here. So this, of course, safety goes with this, but I want to show you basically this connection that Pierson built, and then I did like a formula, but it's written. Okay, just go with me. Professional drivers show these top 3 driver behaviors for fuel economy. So the speed, the on and off pre-planning, and defensive driving. So those 3 driver behaviors, fuel economy, which improve profit, which could be passed down to the driver in pay, driver incentives. So think about the fact that MVT is probably the only company that I know that does driver appreciation 4 times a year. Right. So let's start there. It might be others. I'm not saying that I'm wrong, not wrong. It doesn't have to be often, but I might be. But 4 times a year. So by just doing those type of things, it's past a professional driver. Doing those type of things gets passed down as profit, which can get passed down to the driver and pay and other incentives or benefits and things like that. Let's start with the fact that MVT, Rig on Wheels recruiters, do not listen to this. You will not be getting this as an incentive, okay? But MVT also has health benefits where their staff can go to another country, Mexico, and also get their health benefits and stuff like that. So that is what being a professional driver gets you. It just all ties into one. So I'll actually write it up where it sounds and communicates a lot better. But literally, it's a formula. All of it is a formula to bring better profit. Better profit for a company means more profit for a driver. That is the entire, and not any driver. Nobody wants to retain a driver. No, for a professional driver. That's hands down. So that's the whole thing. That is a formula. It's just literally you got the real smart guys that are in a room with the fancy Excel sheets, And it's just one little simple formula they putting together with the math. I just wrote it out. They they have math, but it really is just what details a professional driver in order to make profit so they can pass it on to the driver. Am I right, yep. Pierson?
No, dead on. And look, our big thing that comes from all the fuel savings is all these companies got in an arms race. I'll pay you 70 cents a mile. I'll pay you 75 cents a mile. A bunch of that freight went away. I still get 10 to 12 people a week that call up going, I'm looking for that 75 cents a mile. Well, that's why you lost your job. That business went away.
Yeah.
They couldn't pay you as a company driver moving dry van freight 75 cents a mile. One of the factors that we have not had to go backwards in our pay has been because of the fuel savings.
Yeah.
There's areas that as a trucking company, it comes, be it a large company, a small company, or medium company, you want your drivers to be financially successful, or you should. If that's not one of your goals, you're a horrible company. And we want our drivers to be financially stable and growing from a financial standpoint. So if we can get better fuel economy, if we can have them be comfortable, if we can have them have a schedule, it's a win-win-win. The driver stays with us and they keep getting better as time goes on. The driver has a chance at career development and growth, and they know my pay is going to stay up, even in the bad times. My pay is going to be pretty stable here because I don't have a company trying to commit to the impossible. They're not trying to overpay me versus the market. They're not trying to let me go down the road at 80 miles an hour. They just want to make sure that my paycheck stays steady. And at the end of the day, it's not the rate per mile that matters. It's not how fast the truck that goes that matters. What matters is that your paycheck is high and stable week in and week out. That's the end goal in trucking. If I can give you a week where you made $3,000 as a company driver, but you went broke the other 51 weeks of the year, that's not a recipe for success. You have literally gotten your hopes up for no apparent reason. But on the flip side, if I can give you $1,500 to $1,800 a week and you can count on it week in and week out, that's something special. And that's the goal in a market that is very seasonal and can ebb and flow. If you can create that consistency, that's a big deal. And it starts with fuel economy. It starts by a company controlling their costs, stabilizing those variable costs and creating them into more of a fixed cost, for lack of a better term, that makes the difference. That's where our engineered lanes help. That's where our fuel economy helps, because it allows us to regulate those costs that our drivers pay remain secure.
I love this topic. This is good. This is really good right here. I love this topic. Thanks, Pierson. This is a really good topic right here because it helps drivers and companies and all of the middle and upper management. To be honest with you, it helps everybody. I like this topic a lot. So, Kayla, what I want Kayla to do is take us to commercial break. I was right. Right, 2 and 2. And then you should have seen Josue last week. Bless his heart. He didn't know what was going on, the whole 2 and 2.
He's never seen Love Connection. I know.
It just was too much. I have to send him to YouTube. But take us to Love Connection break, and we'll be back in 2 and 2. And then we'll talk about hot jobs or the areas. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming back. Okay, Pierson, tell us about some hot jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. I would point out right now, I still need 3 to 4 teams for Division 329 running Texas, Regional, and Southern Oklahoma. It is a job that will get you started early Monday morning, have you home by Saturday morning. Need drivers, pre-made teams in Dallas, Fort Worth, San Antonio, and Laredo for that. Get nice trucks spec'd out for a team, a lot of drop and hook. We utilize our local driver base in those markets so that you can do that drop and hook, as well as some of the other areas like Houston and Southern Oklahoma. You're never too far from home, nice running lane, going to be averaging as a driver about $1,700 a week, maybe a little more than that in some weeks. But yeah, need 3 to 4 people to do that out of DFW, Laredo, and San Antonio. So when you talk to your recruiter, tell them I'm interested in Division 329, which is a Texas regional type run. You're going to stick primarily in the eastern and middle part of Texas and southern Oklahoma. I would also tell you, out of Salt Lake City right now, running the Western 11, we have a nice paying job out of the Salt Lake City market. You're out 7 to 8 days. It's Western 11. It pays approximately, for our most experienced drivers, about $2,000 a week. So you're looking at anywhere between $102,000 to $106,000 a year. The challenge is you are running the Western 11. But with that said, you get very nice home time out a little more than a week. We're going to utilize all the hours that you have available, get you home for a full 2 days and right back at it. And again, really in Salt Lake City, it doesn't have the cost of living of some of the other areas of the Mountain West, but it's not a cheap area to live. So when you live in a beautiful area like Salt Lake City, it helps to make a little bit of money to support that lifestyle. Additionally, we're looking for drivers right now in a number of other markets that we have multiple openings. So if you live out of the El Paso or Las Cruces market, if you live in Albuquerque, Laredo, San Antonio, Houston, DFW, if you live out of Nashville, Memphis, Jacksonville, Florida, St. Louis, or pretty much statewide anywhere in Tennessee and Kentucky, we have opportunities we'd love to share with you here. So again, if you know anybody, we'll also take referrals and work with you on that. And so if you come along, we're more than happy to pay you an extra $1,000 or bringing a friend with you as well.
We got a question, Pierson. Somebody wanted to know I know that they are home every week, but they wanted, especially teams always want to know this. Can they stay out longer? And I know we have engineered lanes at MVT, but they want to know, can they stay out longer?
Not really, because there's not an upside to it. Eventually you run out of hours. So we are very specific about where we're hiring from. So as an example, if you live in Laredo, the freight leads you back home. So wouldn't you prefer to do your reset at your home area? We don't get that much gain because we hire from areas that you already live in that freight lane, in the origin or destination point of that freight. So there's not really a lot of upside to do that because the freight literally follows you to the house. There's nothing gained from that scenario. I know some carriers may have folks out 4 to 6 weeks at a time or some variation on that. But in our end, we're hiring from markets that the freight leads you back home. So it's advantageous that you might as well do your reset from the house.
Now, I have a question now that you said that. So Bobby Joe is coming out of Houston, but you said is running other points out of Houston and out of Texas. What if he lives in Houston, but he wants to do 1 week? He wants one of them or something like that. They want to do their reset in another point on the engineered lane in the loop.
Well, so like as an example, we have a division called 440 open right now that goes Houston to Central Tennessee, down to the southeast, down around Jacksonville or the Carolinas, and back to Houston. In theory, you could do that, but generally speaking, the end of the run comes back home. So we do have scenarios where drivers may be on a division out of El Paso and they have family in Southern California. So we have a division called 230 that would go to Southern California, go all the way back to South Texas and back to El Paso. Part of what makes that division attractive to them is they, in theory, can visit family in those other areas. We definitely work with a driver if we're able to do that for them. Doing a full reset, really, it gets into how do we make sure that you, the equipment, are running as most effectively as possible while utilizing your available hours. And this is the thing I will tell anybody: when you're a truck driver, you're not on a sightseeing tour. It's not about getting on and off. It's about keeping that freight moving. So when you do get home, you can step away from the truck and have a life outside the truck. So if we have certain engineered lanes where that's a possibility, we definitely have scenarios that will do that to help a driver out and give them the chance to spend some time with some friends or family. But with that said, the disadvantage of our engineered lanes is if you want to go to some of these other places and take a 34-hour reset, we do not work like a traditional OTR company. The advantage of those engineered lanes on the flip side is you pre-plan 2 to 3 days out, sometimes 2 to 3 loads out. So you know each week I'm going to make this amount of money because I'm pre-planning ahead of time. That's where it becomes, what trade-off do you want? Do you want consistency in your pay? Or do you want to be in a setup that you may be relying on a broker load to get to a spot that fits outside of your normal running lanes? So it gets into that conversation with your recruiter. And this is the advantage of Rig on Wheels, is if I'm talking to one of your recruiters at Rig on Wheels, what I'm looking for may not be what MVT has. It just might not be. I may be looking for more of a traditional OTR company. And I'm positive you and your team over there have, let's call it XYZ Trucking, that they have that. Our advantage here is we are able to pre-plan 2 to 3 loads in advance. So when you tell the spouse, I'm going to be home on Thursday at 4 p.m., you're going to be home Thursday at 4 p.m. to do your 34-hour reset to 48, depending on your selective division. That's the advantage with us. It gives you pre-planning capabilities, consistency in the pay. You may say, well, I'd really like to take a load up to northern Michigan. Okay, I don't have any of that. I'm not looking to get a broker load up to Sault Ste. Marie. That's where you kind of ask, what's important to you in life? And that's where, look, my recruiters internally, I hope are not recruiting for XYZ Trucking. We're probably going to have an awkward conversation if they are. They need to be focused on MVT. Your recruiters, though, specifically for Rig on Wheels, can have that conversation. What are your interests? What do you like? What's important to you? In a lot of cases, if they live in the right area, MVT is going to be their best option, even against some dedicated options, because we're not solely reliant on one customer. But you may go, Mr. Bill Smith, it appears that your interests are more towards this, this, and this. Let me tell you about XYZ Trucking.
And that's what I was getting, one of the points that I was actually getting to. So for Division 329, it's definitely for a driver that is, or the team that's not looking for your regular OTR. You are looking for your dedicated lane or your engineered lane. So where you start at is where you're going to stop at, and you'll have your more consistent pay every week. So that's, and there are teams that want one thing or want another thing, but definitely this is for that particular team. Okay, so it's for the team that wants to start where they stop, and you'll be home on a weekly basis. So that's what that is.
You're going to see those teams are the length of haul on that's only going to be about 300 miles, but it's a ton of drop and hook. So that truck literally is dropping the load, picking up the next one, going on down the road. They're not going too far from home, but despite the schedule and despite the small geography, they're still doing 5,000-6,000 miles in the week.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
It's overwhelmingly drop and hook.
Well, first of all, you in Texas, okay?
Yep.
That's 3 states all by itself when you're in Texas. But I did want to say thank you to Merrill. He said, well said, great food for thought. So I know he was talking about when we were discussing what a professional driver was. So I wanted to say, yeah, definitely. So I wanted to point that out, but I was asking that question because I know that there are different type of team drivers. I don't want to generalize. However, in my 14 years now, it's a lot of times I hear more drivers that are wanting your dedicated and your engineered lanes because they want to start where they stop, especially for the ones that have been out there for a while. Now, ones that are younger, sometimes they're okay because they have family in a lot of different areas or different people that they want to see. That's something different. But if you want to start where you stop, you want to come home to the same location, this is definitely perfect for you. So yeah, definitely give us a call at 281-968-3100, 281-968-3100. Pearson, did you tell us what the average pay is for this $329 for the team, for each driver?
I did. It's each driver is $1,700, or a team's going to be in that $3,400 to $3,600 range on a weekly basis. Again, it's a pre-made team. You know your team driver. Now, a lot of times it's husband and wives seems to be the most common thing, but we have teams that are brothers. We have teams that are high school buddies that have just known each other for 20 years after high school. Obviously, you want to be in the truck with somebody you get along with. So, if if you met your neighbor next week and decide you want to be in a confined space, don't be surprised if you get on each other's nerves. It's not for everybody. With that said, on the flip side, if you like the person that you're with, you think you guys work well together, or have worked well together previously, it can be very enjoyable. Like I said, most common things, husband and wife, but we've had aunts, uncles, we've had friends from high school. We have other people that literally ran with us for a couple of years under other divisions, kept bumping into each other at driver appreciations and go, you know what, we seem to be pretty goal-oriented the same way. Let's team and make some bigger money.
Yeah, especially with your people that are people. What? How did it say? People, persons, people, whatever. You know.
It works.
Okay. Yeah, everybody knows what I mean. Okay. So what I want to do is go to commercial, come back, and then you tell us about diesel and how we can win a new car. Okay. Yeah. All right. Kayla, take us to commercial. I'm with Josue.
My name is Josue Fierro, and I am a recruiter, and I've been with Mesilla Valley going on 3 years now. Before I joined the Mesilla Valley Transportation family, I was at JCU as a loan officer. I feel that I acquired some skills there, providing customer service, learning, to listen to the customer, and, learning patience. I think that helped me out right now where I'm at with Mesilla Valley Transportation, because I could actually apply those skills to what I do now, which is, helping drivers, getting them behind the wheel and getting them a job. So basically what I do here in recruiting, it's something good. We for sure give jobs to drivers, so it feels good, that we help people. Communication is great there in our department, from leadership to employees. We have a good working environment there, and it feels homey. Like, it feels like a home environment. It feels a family-oriented environment. So, I guess I acquired skills here at Mesilla Valley Transportation. One of them would be knowledge of the transportation industry. I was not aware of the transportation. I was just more into financing, and I think it's good to know that transportation takes a big role in our country, and we do something good here. What made me apply Mesilla Valley Transportation was basically word of mouth, the reputation that this company has. You see them everywhere on billboards, the trucks on the street. You see, you hear them in the news ads. So you see Mesilla Valley Transportation everywhere, and you just hear from people here, local people, saying that Mesilla Valley is great. It's a great company to work for, and I was excited to join. My life changed when I joined Mesilla Valley Transportation in a big way. And one of them was them, of course, providing stability, giving me a peaceful state of mind, knowing that I could provide for my family, knowing that I could do what I do every single day without worries of, job security, in other words. And they actually helped me out a lot as well, as far as my daughter. She's 17. She wanted to get a first job in the summer. Marketing was able to go ahead and help me out, bring her in here as an internship over the summer, which she loved. She gained a lot of experience for her being her first job. Now she loves it. Now she wants to go to school for it and get a degree. So she's happy, and I'm happy. I would definitely recommend people to work here. It's ever since I walked here the first day, it felt like a family-oriented work environment. Everyone's smiling, everyone's friendly, everyone talks to you like if they know you for years. So for sure, if I had to go ahead and tell someone, I would definitely recommend someone to work here at Mesilla Valley. My name's Josue Fierro. I'm a driver recruiter, and MVT changed my life.
Oh, we just love Josue. We love you too, Peterson.
Yeah, I'm not jealous. I'm not jealous.
Pearson, look, I called you on Pearson.
I'm not going to go outside in Kia's truck, his nice truck that he has there.
Yeah.
I may ask him questions about the anime characters on it, but
yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot to ask him about that when I talked to him, I forgot that. I'm gonna ask him. Okay, so take it away. Tell us about this whole diesel and fuel and how went in a truck and everything.
absolutely. One of our things that we do is we recognize the drivers that do a really above average job all the way to an exceptional job. We're very focused on fuel economy in an industry that averages about 6.5 miles a gallon. We average about 9.5 miles a gallon. The biggest factor, as we talked about earlier in the show, comes down to driver behavioral trends. If you look at it from any of our divisions, our experience levels, the driver is what makes the difference on that fuel economy. So what we do is every quarter, whichever driver gets the best fuel economy, they get a brand new car. So right now we have a black 2023 Nissan Sonata sitting in our lobby at this moment, just waiting on its next owner to be announced next quarter. Our most recent one, so it's not necessarily just a 20-year vet that wins this thing with us. The team that won it last quarter got 12.6 miles a gallon. They've been with us for 9 months. They aren't even through their first year yet with us, but they had the best fuel economy in the fleet. It is a couple of guys that are really professional, really do a great job for us, offer great customer service. But most importantly, on this end, they get really good fuel economy at 12.6 miles a gallon. So what they ended up doing there is they were the winner this last quarter of a brand new car. We'll continue to do that every single quarter. And then whoever gets the best fuel economy for the year gets a $25,000 bonus. That was a gentleman named Roberto Sandoval that got it with us this year. He's done a phenomenal job for us as far as fuel economy. We have one driver that's won it 4 different times. They've taken a lot of painstaking effort to make sure that they get great fuel economy. So they've essentially, over the course of a decade, gave themselves about an extra $100,000 above and beyond without running an extra mile. The fuel economy is a big piece because, like I said, we're able to offer the stability in our driver pay, where even in the arms race of last year, we've not had to go back on pay because we manage our fuel economy. Even in a suppressed market, that makes a huge difference. So fuel. We love giving away the new car every quarter, get to meet a new driver every quarter and understand their story a little bit about what motivates them. If you come in, though, and you don't immediately, if you're middle of the pack and you're not getting that fuel economy, between the fleet manager and an entire department that we call our driver services department, we work with our drivers on being the most professional, safe drivers on the road. And we try to line up our drivers. So if you're in the middle of the pack, you realistically a quarter later can start being at the top of the pack in fuel economy. We look at your equipment, your driver behavioral trends, maybe things going on at the customer level, and about a dozen other factors to see how we can improve your fuel economy and ultimately give you better success at the job, because your success, quite frankly, your success. We literally are successful if you are.
I love that. What I think I love the most, and I say this all the time, is the fact that MVT really works and coaches the driver to what they want to do when it comes to winning that car, because that's awesome. So what was the whole, like, all the whispers and everything with the fact that this team hasn't been at MVT that long and they won this car? Like,
well, the whispers were, I found out that information 2 weeks ahead of time and I wasn't supposed to know. That would be the whispering on that end, but because I was pretty excited, I wanted to pick up that phone and guess what? But I would have ruined the surprise. Generally speaking, if Royal Jones shows up here, the founder of our company, with a big camera crew behind him, something good's most likely taking place. And we don't do undercover boss, so it's most likely we're giving away the car.
So that had to be awesome. What was their reaction like?
They were pretty pumped. They were pretty pumped because there's a lot of people that are very competitive about it. So they knew they were having a very good quarter. They knew that they were in that wheelhouse because we track it fairly close. And literally, if you go into one of our terminals, it's listed on the board. You can see where you're at that moment. So they knew they were close, but you don't want to count your chickens before they hatch. And so they hadn't been. But once Royal showed up and the film crew was behind and they were walking towards them. They had an idea what was coming.
They knew. Okay. That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm going to say that saying again. And yeah, I'm going to mess it up. I'm going to say something about hatching chickens. This is going to go all crazy. But yeah, okay. I didn't know it was like a leaderboard. So that's awesome. You're able to kind of see. That's good. That's good.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
really
absolutely. Good. You want to know, look, at the end of the day, the thing we take most pride in is we have hundreds of drivers on our fleet that have million plus miles of safe, proven miles. That's a big deal for us, more than the 1,900. It's that we have hundreds of drivers that have 1 million safe miles with us. That is a huge testament to our long-term planning, the great drivers that we've been able to hire and maintain in relationships with over the years. And they are very competitive with each other because they'll brag with each other a little bit, see where I'm at on the leaderboard, but they want to know.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I didn't even realize it was a leaderboard. So that's pretty cool. I like that. I like that even better. So what I want to say, everybody, is thank you for joining us. And if you are looking for a job, whether it is with MVT or any other company, MVT, you need at least 6 months experience. But if you have less than that and you are looking for another job, definitely give us a call at 281-968-3100, 281-968-3100. Or go straight to the website at rigonwheels.com and fill out the Intella app, and the recruiters are right there to either take your call or give you a call back once you completed the actual application. And we'll see you next week on Tuesday at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. You got anything to say, Pierson?
No, I'm good to go. I'm glad my seat feels different now that Josue sat in it, but I'm glad to be back in my seat here.
Yes, glad that you're back too. So Pierson to be here on Tuesday at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. I don't know where he'll be at in the world, but
about 5,700 miles away from where I'm sitting currently. 5712, if you want to be exact.
Okay, that's very specific. But either way, it'll be Tuesday at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. We'll see you then, guys. See you next week. Bye-bye.